My road has been long and weary, friend. My annoyance with the bartender was surely obvious. I snatched the whiskey coke from the bar and sucked it down greedily. All I'm saying is that it's noon on a Monday there, bud. His cigarette-charred throat made him sound rougher than his years. Bud. I never really cared for that word, bud. Especially considering I was at least 150 years his senior. I got all the time in the world, I sighed, motioning at the empty glass. Without hurry, he refilled the cup. I turned from the bar and scanned the rest of the room, studying the empty chairs waiting for the next patron to arrive. Aside from the old farmer nursing on a corn-themed bush can, it was utterly empty. It was days like these I hated the most. I've spent many Monday afternoons in taverns like these. I've also spent them rebuilding our nation after a bloody war, taking part in 2 more bloody wars overseas and helping countless folks along the way. I watched the Red Scare pull at those old seams, starved with my brothers and sisters during the Depression and everything between. Somehow, some way, days like these were even worse. Lethargic gluttony. In all my years, all 168, this is far and away the most prosperous. It just seems that nobody cares. No more camaraderie through the pain, or maybe pain brings camaraderie? I think so. 146 years since I drank the water from a nondescript stream in the backyard of our childhood home. Sweet Lips, what a fitting name for the town it all started in. I started a family once, maybe a decade after I'd first drank that creek water. We, Mary and I, had 2 kids, one who survived. I wish that I could say it was a happy life we led, but she grew suspicious. As we approached over our 60th cycle around the sun, she became suspicious that my 20-something face hadn't aged a day during all that time. She fled and I wandered on alone. I wedded twice more. My second wife, Isabella, took my things and ran off with another man who I will get to later. Finally, there was Elizabeth. Oh, how I loved that little spitfire, her sweet, freckled face. We'd met at a pub in the Bronx a couple years after the end of the Second World War. I went to the great lengths to hide my past, to hide how long I had really been around for. If it wasn't for the brain cancer, that little spot on her pituitary gland, then I'm sure she would have found out and left anyways. That's what I try to tell myself. I will never love again. You all right there? I jumped, turning from the window back toward the gravel-voiced gentleman staring uneasily my way. Just fine. The sunshine feels good. I relished the dim warmth radiating from the window for a moment longer, before shuffling back into the dingy midst of the Green Bottle Blues Inn. I hadn't been to this bar before, though it felt similar to the hundreds of others I'd visited along my journeys through the American Midwest. Another? The gravel-voiced man was washing out a glass in the dirty sink behind the bar. A damp towel clung limply to his shoulder. Sure, but I ought to get going afterward. My smile felt even emptier than the glass. I slid toward the man. He glanced at me quizzically before pulling the bottle of whiskey down from the top shelf. I suppose with enough time you can afford even the finer things. What's your name, fella? He returned the smile through his brow remained furrowed. He was studying me. No surprises there, fella. I'm a couple steps ahead of you. Tom, just Tom. Not short for nothing, I replied. bringing the amber liquid to my lips. I took a deep pull and met a man's gaze. His eyes widened as he took an obvious step backward. Slowly, however, that professional smile returned to his lips. "What brings you back here, Tom?" His hands had disappeared beneath the bar, though his eyes stayed level with mine. To these folks, I was the Antichrist. I suppose I can't blame them for the aggression. I was thinking about paying my old brother a visit, as I'm sure you know, I shrugged, struggling to get the last drop of Drambuie from the glass. Truthfully, I hadn't been welcome in Sweet Lips ever since my brother and I fell out all those years ago. All those decades ago. He chose a different route with his immortality. The gravel-voiced man stiffened, revealing the double-barrel shotgun he had fished from underneath the bar. He stuck the barrel directly in my face. "Jesus, you treat all your customers like this?" I replied coolly, still clutching that empty thing in my hands. The man seemed to buckle a bit and laugh, a nervous chuckle it was. "No, sir, nobody but you." He straightened himself up, revealing his massive frame. Big man, big man. I stood slowly, leaning in close to the man's face as the barrel of his gun drew further back. His eyes were hectic, seemingly shaking in their deep sockets. "He's led you astray, you know." I bared my teeth which would have been dust if not for the water in that little stream. The only thing that hurt as much as Elizabeth, maybe even more, was watching my dear brother grow so bitter through the years. The only other person who shared this curse with me had chosen to do harm to those around him. It makes me sick. I gripped the glass more harshly, swinging my arm towards the man's face. Suddenly something stopped. I turned right and noticed the thick, rough hands clutching at my arm. The old man. The fucking old man. The gun butt swung and the world went quiet. The church spire stood tall and obscenely white against the cloudless sky, bending almost imperceptibly at its tip like it was a misplaced set piece of a Tim Burton stop-motion film. Curled, decrepit grass jutted from underneath its foundations like dying hands reaching for help. A well made of gray stone and mortar resided no more than 10 yards in front of the vestibule. 2 men clung at each arm, though I doubted I could make a run for it in my current state. A circle of various people surrounded the well. All of them were adorned in either red dresses or red suits. In the very center of the group, standing directly behind the well, was an all too familiar face. He smiled a hideous grin. "I knew you'd come," he'd hiccuped, trying to stifle a laugh. I could only watch helplessly, my obliterated nose filling my mouth with the coppery taste of blood. "Tom," his smile fell flat, his eyes burning through me with all the horrors of 1,000 lifetimes. "I wanted you to have a front row seat." My brother Timothy began pulling at the rope hanging deep down in the well. A bucket, like most wells, was at the other end. He produced a knife and sliced the bucket's fraying rope, careful not to spill any of its contents while doing so. Timothy fell to one knee, presenting the receptacle to the man standing to his left. He accepted, bringing the rim of the bucket to his lips and taking a deep, satisfying pull. The man smiled a sinister, deviant smile before passing the bucket onward. "Soon, Tom, this world will be ours," Timothy declared, his face remaining flat and emotionless. "As soon as the last of this townsfolk." The last member of the Sweet Lips congregation took a swig from the well water The men released me. I fell in a heap. I never thought he would share the water. I knew I should have come sooner. Let him go. He's gonna need a head start, the immortal man spat.